Hi, everybody. We are here today with another episode of COSI. Today, I'm joined by Luca, Jennifer, Sofia, Andrea, Milan, and me from different many countries from Italia, Portugal, Romania, Germany, and France. We are volunteers of COSI. Thank you for taking time to be with us. In this episode, we'll be talking about discrimination. But before we get started, let's quickly explain what discrimination actually is. Discrimination is an unequal treatment to a person or a group of people based on criteria prohibited by law, for example, origin, sex, age, religion, or disability. But to start without delay, I have a question for you. Have you ever been a victim of discrimination?
Yes, sometimes it happens. For example, when you move to another country, I moved to Italy when I was a kid, and since our culture is different from Italian one, it is you've seen by other people like different, so to get used to it, maybe people can think you are a little bit strange, they can say something. So I would say that it happens, especially when we don't know enough about other countries. So maybe about the clothes we use, about the food we eat. Maybe we eat many things. In Italy, for example, they don't really like garlic or onion. And I'm from Romania, and in Romania we used to love it. So funny things, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not. But if you are eating different things, or as I said, you are wearing different clothes, or you talk in a different way, it happened to me already that I was discriminated because of this cultural background. I don't know if somebody wants to say something else.
Well, not really. Don't have a lot to say. I've never been to any place different than my home for long periods of time, with the exception of this one. So I haven't really experienced what it's like to be the minority in a different culture, in a different place. I was always a part of the majority, the one that does the discriminating, so to speak. So don't really have anything to say in that regard.
All right, so let's move on.
So, what interests me is, do you feel that it's easy for you to denounce discrimination, for you to say it's bad, for you to try and intervene? And if it depends on what? Basically, if you see discrimination happening somewhere, do you think it's easy for you to say something, to do something, to stand up?
I think it depends of the situation. If you are some supports and you are not afraid of the consequences, I think it's easier.
What are some of the consequences that could happen?
For
Like,
ex- for
what?
example, in your on for example your job and your director is the person who discriminate people. If you want to be against him, I think it's more difficult because it's your director, of your job, and you can be afraid of the consequence. For example, the you can be
Yeah, you
you
can
know
be have some disadvantages from
exactly,
your boss in the
exactly,
workplace. Yeah,
exactly.
that is a concern. Hasn't happened to me yet, but only the future will tell. And what about in like public situations? If I don't know, you see some person getting, I don't know, yelled at or, in the bus or in public transport or whatever.
I think that something that happens a lot is that you just don't care and let things happen. Many people do that, which is scary because then you don't feel safe in that place. Imagine something really bad happens to you, and people, they don't want to have problems, so they just continue their day and don't do anything. But thanks God, I've seen the good things happening. So people were helping, were getting in the fight, kind of, and were helping to to establish peace again. So I think I've seen both of the situations, but it's sad that still happens this kind of thing that people just don't care.
Yeah, yeah, I think it happens a lot that everyone is just trying to mind their own business to not create any problems for themselves or anyone else. But it is time for the next question.
Well, we were thinking, do you think that social media influence discrimination or kind of promote it?
I don't think social medias themselves do any good or worse. It really depends on how someone uses them and what kind of channels they follow or where they take their information from. So it can be good and can be against discrimination, or in other cases it can promote that. So it really depends on the use we do of social medias.
I also think that, for example, in Portugal, one thing that is happening is that politics who use most social media are from far right movements. So it's easier that if a video shows up, it will be far right, and you see it until the end. Your algorithm might keep showing you that type of videos, and you might start thinking, okay, you have to have a critical thinking, because it's very easy to believe in things that are not true, because they keep showing on your feed, and they keep your algorithm sends it to you. And I think it might be dangerous if you don't filtrate what you see, and if you are not critic about it.
Yeah, I feel like that's the main danger of social media is it creates these bubbles of content for you to watch, to engage in, because obviously they want to keep you on their platform, to keep you, swiping and looking and interacting and whatnot. And what it often leads to is that you have a very simple, like one-dimensional worldview of just an echo chamber of you see whatever you like, and then you think that's the only correct option there is. And it's really quite difficult to try and find it. Because you kind of have to start a new social media account to get rid of the old algorithm that you had, in order to not be influenced by it, which is difficult. And that's why I think social media is quite dangerous in that regard to democracy, to encourage it encourages discrimination, because people are used to believing what they see. And especially if they see it something multiple times, then obviously it has to be true. If several people talk about something, that gives it more credibility, even if the source from all of those people is the same. So yes, I would say social media, just the way it works, the way it keeps you interactive, is actually accentuating discrimination and promoting intolerance.
Yeah, and I believe one important thing that you said, Sofia, is that, for example, in Italy, we do have the same educational system since many, many, many years. And I think that one thing that should be implemented is that the world is changing, habits are changing. So there should be, as you said, like a critical thinking class, or exercise at school should be different, should be improved. Because yes, I believe the social media are not dangerous as long as you know what you are looking at, you know how to interpret all those things, and you are trying to see the same thing from different point of view. But if you are like a teenager, you are getting influenced very easily, that could be a problem. So maybe even from educational point of view, they should like change and try to implement new.
And that's already interesting because we're moving along the questions. You
Yeah.
already mentioned one type of solution, trying to educate
Yes.
people to have, as you said, critical thinking classes. But according to anyone else at the table, what do you think are solutions or keys in the fight against discrimination? Is there anything you can perhaps do in your daily life? Anything that you can start doing today?
I think there should be a change in mentality, and as Andrea already said, it should start in schools. Kids should be taught that there are different people, either by sex or by country they are from, and that's not a bad thing. It's just how the world is, and I think schools should just spread awareness. They should teach kids that it's fine to be different, and it's what makes the world the good place that it is. And as far as what we can do to counter discrimination in our daily life, I think just try to be a good person. If you see something bad happening in front of you, just do something to help the person that is being a victim of discrimination.
Yeah, I think that's quite an important thing to do, just to try and take action yourself. But also, because we mentioned systematic issues and changing the education system, obviously we are all part of society, and it is our responsibility to steer society in a certain way. If you want someone to change the education system, you need to vote for people who promise to be doing those things. So it's important to be aware of your civic duties you have for society.
Does anybody want to add something about this? All right. So another solution, it is, I mean, something that is happening in the last years is that we're trying to change our language, and so making it more inclusive. In official documents, we are implementing like professions from women and from men. And at the beginning, it was just doctor or something was just a male word, and now it is changing. And even I remember once there was an article in Italy, and they were putting an asterisk just to include everybody, man, woman, not binary, etc. So, do you think that the language that we are using change these things, change the discrimination, help to improve it or not?
I'm just gonna start and say that yes, I do think that language influences our way of thinking and therefore discrimination by a huge amount actually, because obviously language is the way we communicate, and people are often not aware of the type of words, type of language they use, and how it influences anyone else, what effects it has. I don't know, like common sayings, or even just something that's been so deeply integrated into our thinking, our language. For example, the word black or dark usually means bad. I don't know, black magic or whatever. It's so common in our everyday life that we never notice it. But all things bad are, well, all things black are usually bad. Yeah, as I said, black magic, but I don't know, like a black sheep of the family, that means a
Yeah.
bad person. Even though the color is really irrelevant here, but that's that's part of it. And this is really interesting to me because it just showcases how deeply ingrained some discriminatory structures are in our brains and our society, without anyone actually realizing.
Yeah, exactly.
Do any of you have like examples of this in your own languages where you have like different kind of words, I don't know, descriptions, sayings that are technically discriminatory, but nobody really cares because it's so common?
I think some words you use can exclude or stigmatize certain person. So in France, we have a new language which calls inclusive language, and for example, instead of use she, elle in France or he, il in France, we use the both, and it's like yell to
To
include
yell.
yes to include both women and men, and the people, for example, who don't consider themselves like a man or like a woman. So yes, it's inclusive language, a new language.
And is it like actually official? Like,
No,
do
it's
people
not
really
official.
use it?
No, it's not official.
okay.
But I think in the maybe the years after, yeah, maybe it could be it could be
We
official.
can hope, because in
Mm-mm.
Germany there's been a large debate for many years at this point about gendering the language, and including different genders in your everyday talk. And it's become a bit of a political divide,
Really.
with parties mainly on the left,
Mm-mm.
center left being like, yeah, we should
Mm-mm.
change all important documents to include the male and female version, because
Mm-mm.
in German we have the male and female version of words.
Mm.
Uh, and others saying that it's not necessary and complicates the language, and
Mm.
I don't know, maybe that was sexist, who knows?
Mm.
But yeah, there's been a huge push in Germany to make it actually an official thing to gender the language, to put both the male and female version of words
Mm-mm.
in official documents, in official
Yes.
speeches.
Yes, and in exact, if for example, also on your ID, your passport, you have to put your sex like female or male, but some person don't want to be a male or female. Like, so
Yeah,
how can
yeah.
you do to? How can you put on your ID if you are not a male or not a female? No.
I think that changed in Germany recently. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not that well
Mm-mm.
educated. But what I also saw is, for example, for job listings, we now have male, female, and diverse as the three options of gender
Oh,
in
okay.
those places, which I think is really awesome.
Mm.
Which it changed like in the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. It was really great to see that society is improving in a certain direction.
Mm.
In Italy also there are a lot of things that exist or are used only in a masculine way, like a lot of jobs, like president is only masculine, and you use the masculine version even if the president is a woman, or even lawyer. It exists, the feminine version, but whenever a lawyer, even if it's a woman, is speaking like on TV or everything, everybody calls her avvocato, which is the masculine version, because avvocatessa, it exists, but nobody uses it. So a lot of important jobs only have masculine version, and they are used even for women, and it shows the difference. Maybe because many years ago, all those jobs were mostly men doing them, but there should be a change in language also on from this point of view.
Yeah, yeah. Really, really interesting topics. But since we talked about the situations in different countries, we are a multi-ethnic group at this table, but multinational group, so to speak. And what are some of the stereotypes associated with your culture, your country? And have you ever been judged based on them while abroad, studying, visiting, living? Andrea, you said you already have experiences with the
Yes.
Romanian cuisine, as an example.
Yes, so about cuisine, about drinking too much. That's what people believe about Romania, and that for some reason they are known for stealing, which is again, it's just somebody that has done it at a certain point, and since it's a bad thing, they're just thinking that all Romanian people are like this, which is absolutely not the truth, because if you get deeper in it and you know the people, it's really subjective. So, but yes, and I've been judged about this, but then I realized that when people started to know me, they just knew me for who I really am, not for. But yeah, the first approach was based on stereotypes. So it happened.
Yeah, yeah. The first interactions I have with many people, when they first learn that I'm German, is usually something Nazi related
Yeah.
because, big funny, apparently. And yeah, I don't know. There are some stereotypes for Germans. They're always on time, always efficient. I'm not. Uh, I do my best to fight stereotypes. You're welcome. Um, but yeah, it's usually only like the beginning, like when you get to know someone,
Yeah.
being like, yeah, maybe make a few jokes about, Germans are usually,
Yeah.
but it usually fades quite quickly. So it's not much of an issue for me personally, but maybe anyone else have or has had a different experience and lasting stereotypes being judged based on them.
I don't know what people think about French people or Portugal or Italy.
Do you even have like common stereotypes in Portugal? People think about.
I think
I think people think about French people and they think that French people are arrogant and never happy and pretentious and that's all. And we love baguette and red wine.
I mean, you do.
Yes, I do. It's real, just this. But yeah.
As an Italian, like always, whenever I tell people that I'm Italian, they always say pizza, pasta, and stuff like that. But I don't feel I've ever been judged because of it, at least not with ill intent. It was always like joking and stuff. So I wouldn't say that I've ever been victim of discrimination because I'm Italian.
yeah. And what about Portugal?
I don't know. Maybe Portuguese like football or eat
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
what I
fish,
think.
or I don't know. But I don't believe that I have been discriminated based on being Portuguese.
Yeah.
Some people might say, "Oh, Cristiano Ronaldo, sí."
Yes.
That's it, Chelsea.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about discrimination based on gender. So I wanted to ask, just in general, how are women typically seen in your culture? Do you have like a more traditional view of, the woman staying in the kitchen, taking care of the family, or do you have like different certain types of gender roles in your culture?
Well, I do remember. So, in my town in Italy, it's a very, very small town, by the way. But I remember that there was that woman, and she said, "Okay, now I'm married, and my husband just wants me to stay at home, and for me, it's okay. It's what I'm supposed to do." And I was, "Are you happy with that?" "Oh, it's just what I'm not supposed to do." And I was, not really. I mean, if you want to work or if you want to do something, you can definitely do that. So I don't know if it's still like this in the south of Italy because I don't live there, but I don't know if some of you can.
I mean, where I live in South Italy, at least, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, everyone was expected to work, women, kids, because everyone was a farmer and everyone had to work to give money to the family. Now, I wouldn't say that women are expected to not work, but that's mainly because the mentality has progressed in a sense. Like women are not expected to be a stay-at-home mom. Like everyone works. I don't know if at workplaces there is discrimination because I haven't worked yet and I'm not a woman. But
That's a valid reason for not knowing women
But,
discrimination in the workplace.
I think I live in North Italy, and right now there are no really big expectations. Like women are more or less kind of free, but maybe years ago it was expected to, like it was usually the man worked, and the woman should take care of the children and stay at home. Uh, but now I think it has changed a lot, and women and men are more or less equals.
I think in France it's the same. Like now, women are seen as independent, educated, and they can be like a real leader and have a strong power. But I think there's still like a social pressure that women have to take care of family and balance everything perfectly. Like they have to care of the house, and but I think the mentality changed.
That was I was also going to change. I think that even though things are better, like women get home and they still work, and they do everything related to the house. And I think in most of the cases in Portugal, men arrive, sit, do what they have to do, watch TV, and women are still cooking, still doing laundry, still they work more when they arrive home, and men don't. And even if like taking care of kids, I think women take more responsibility than men do. So even though there are some progress, I think that at least in Portugal, mentality is very. It's still a little bit antiquado.
Antiquated.
Yes. So I hope things change. I think our generation is more vocal about it, and but my grandparents' generation is like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's what I noticed in Germany as well. There's a large difference based on age on what people think women should be doing or what men should be doing. And especially in younger couples, it's a lot more equal in who does what in the house and whatnot. And also, it's a lot more common for women with women and men to work full-time jobs. But even then, even within young couples, it's still expected of the woman to take care of the family more than the men do. For example, if you, I don't know, have a child at kindergarten or at school and you come to pick it up, usually the mom picks up the child and never the dad, which is really interesting. And I don't know, everyone just has like this underlying mentality. Even the kindergarten teachers themselves, they get surprised whenever the dad is coming to pick up the child because it usually never happens, even though it should be a shared responsibility. So yeah, I couldn't say a lot more and anything different than what we've already heard.
And I think that it really starts from the maternity. I mean, I know that in places such as Denmark, they both have maternity rights. If the dad wants to stay with the kid or the mom wants to stay with the kid, it's really the same thing. And in Italy, for example, we have it for it's like more common for mothers rather than dads. So it can really start even from the government, even from the laws, even from so.
I remember that in France, some people, I don't remember exactly the date, but want to calculate in money the time the woman spends to carry the family and housing and include this money time in the GPD. And apparently, if we include the time the woman spent to take the family, the GPD will be increased a lot. But
I can imagine. Also, I think in what was it, Denmark or Norway? So somewhere in the Nordics, they implemented a new program for grandparents to take care of the children, and that is being listed as an actual job that it also gets reported to economical statistics, which I think is really great.
really,
That both parents can then work full time, and the grandparents also do stuff are productive for society, which I think is a great system.
Well, so let's talk about discrimination in different sectors where, for example, at work. Have you ever felt discriminated at work, or have you ever assisted that's kind of the discrimination at work based on gender, age, nationality, or any other kind of discrimination? I mean, both your personal experience or somebody you know or somebody you've seen or...
I can say a lot because I've worked a total of 2 jobs, and one of them was being a private tutor, so I don't really have a lot of experience. But I do have some stories from my mom, who is a teacher in elementary school, and it's quite interesting to hear the story she tells, the gossip she has, um, mainly on how male teachers and female teachers handle certain situations, and how teachers from different age groups handle some situations. So for one, male teachers in elementary schools are incredibly rare. And so whenever there is a male teacher, or even a male substitute teacher or whatnot, it's always a bit of a, I don't know, like special event, something to talk about really. And from my experience, well, from me hearing my mom's experience, they are less sensitive to social issues with the children and are more, I don't know how to put this, brutish, so to speak, more, I don't know, rules oriented and less flexible. While female teachers are usually more, I don't know, kinder, more intrigued, more flexible, more inclined to help people out individually. And the same thing goes for the age divide between young people who are usually
Yeah.
a lot more educated also about, I don't know, children with autism, children with migration backgrounds, and putting in a lot more work. And older teachers generally have like one rule book they've established over their years of teaching, and they always just do the same, even if the needs of the class they're now teaching has changed.
Yeah. And I think another interesting thing is, do you feel that you are free in a kind of way to do whatever you want in terms of sports or activities you want to do without being discriminating? So let's say I don't know, you're a boy and you want to do ballet, or you are a girl and you want to do rugby. Do you feel you are completely free and not discriminated because of these choices?
I did personal defense classes for 5 years, and mostly they were cops, firefighters, big men, and then there
Yeah.
were 2 girls, which was me and one friend, and it was I was funny because when they would fight with us, they would pretend to eat us, or we were women, they weren't supposed to eat us.
Yeah.
Some wouldn't even fight with us because they were so afraid to hurt us, and even though I know they were way stronger than I did, I cannot be ready to a real situation if they pretend to punch me and they do nothing. So I don't know if it's discrimination, but in that activity I was doing, I wish that they were a little bit more real with me
Yeah.
when they did it. Also for me to be safer, because if I train and that's my training, I won't be able to do it in real life. So that is my experience.
Yeah, very interesting.
I've only done athletics before, and that was difficult. It's difficult to explain because athletics is separated based on gender, mainly because of biological standards, and men, especially teenage boys, they have a large gap in abilities to teenage girls usually. Just biologically, as in more strength, they can not always, but usually they are more able to do certain stuff, and it's kind of interesting to see the standards being upheld for men and for women in that sport. For example, at the graduation of my school, if you chose to graduate in the sports class for the I think 800-meter endurance was it? The time you have to set to get the best grade is the same time that women Olympians get. Like if you had gotten full points on the 800 meters endurance, you could have competed against the best female athlete in the world, which is crazy to me. And I don't really know, I don't really know how to interpret this. If it's discrimination because people assume that men and women aren't able to do the same things, or if it's better for like the spirit of the sport, especially for young people, young kids in development, because you separate them based on abilities, but I don't really know if it's good or bad. I can't really judge that.
I think sports are still stereotyped because during the Olympic Games, for example, I really saw the difference. For example, rugby was very, very masculine with only guys, and for example, gymnastic was very feminine. So
Also, in the Olympics this year, there was a specific kind of ski race only for men, and that is crazy. Like we are in 2026, and there were professional able to do it also for women, but every sport usually have both, and even this year there's still one sport that only men could play on an Olympic level, and I think this problem not only in the Olympics but like for example I like cycling, and the main competition in Italy there is both for men and women, but the difference in the budget, in the sponsors, in even how long the event is, there's a huge difference, like half for the women. And people say it's because less people are interested in watching women's sports. But if you have less sponsor, if you have less budget, and the competition is smaller, of course, then also the audience is smaller, and it's a circle repeating. So I not only in children's sports, but even on a professional, very high level, there is still a lot we could do to improve.
we can say exactly the same thing for the disabled people. For example, for the during the Paralympic Games, which is for the people with disabilities, the audience was like the audience decreased a lot.
I think it is also because they don't put the same effort even in marketing,
Really.
even in TV
Promotion.
promotion. They don't put the same effort as it is for the sportsmen.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear because actually it can really be helpful, like really put a light on people with disabilities and say to the world that they can do whatever they want, even though they have they've born like this, or they had an accident or whatever. So I think or for women as well, I mean, something should be done about this, giving the right importance to the same importance to everything in the same way, not really. Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, sports is just a popularity contest, and
Yeah.
it's difficult to justify the same expenses if you don't have the same profit, just from a pure business perspective, which makes sense. We don't want people to, lose money and then get disinterested in hosting any sports whatsoever. It's just, I don't know, it's a really difficult problem to solve, to try and get people more interested in different kinds of sports. But yeah, we will have to see how it plans out. I don't think any of us are in a position to adequately change this. So we will see how it works out in the future.
Yeah. And actually, we spent a lot of time talking about discrimination against women, but as we said at the beginning, it's really important to say things in a critical way. So if we thought about women, it's now worth to talk about male discrimination as well. Have you ever heard about this? And what I mean by that is, for example, let's suppose just for male teachers, as you said, Milan, or any job that it's weird for a man to do, or in any other example that you might have.
I worked as a babysitter, and I know that usually people tend to trust women more because it comes natural to some people to think that women can take better care of children and are more trustable than men, which is not true because it's really depending on the person, not their gender. But in this kind of jobs, I think male are more discriminated.
Yeah, definitely, especially when it comes to young children in kindergarten, preschool, elementary school, whatever. It's really astonishing how much of a sexist opinion people really do have about male teachers. For example, there was a huge debate in the elementary school in my village about teachers being allowed to go into the how do you call it, like the changing room for sports. Nobody really cared when it was mainly only female teachers doing it. Going into the female locker room and then the male locker room and just looking at how things are going and whatnot. But if I don't know, a grown man, the male teacher wants to go into the locker room for the girls and check in how things are doing, then it's suddenly a problem. And then people say, yeah, I'm uncomfortable with, a fully grown man looking at my daughter changing, which is kind of understandable in a way, but why didn't you have this problem if it was a female teacher looking at your son? Like, these are just examples of, I don't know, a difference in opinion of how well a certain gender can care for children or not.
When I was in university studying computer science, there was a big disparity in the amount of men and women. Like for every one girl, there would be 10 boys. And to solve the problem, they introduced a program where women studying computer science in my university will get a 75% discount on taxes, which felt a bit unfair and also didn't really work because there still weren't a lot of women in university, and yeah, that's it basically.
Yeah, there's a bunch of legal differences as well. Like Andrea, you talked about the maternal leave for men and women not being the same. And it's just all over the place, really. For example, in custody, if you get divorced, you were married and had children and then got divorced, in like 90% of cases, the woman wins custody over the children and the dad doesn't, even though they had the same parents and are technically equally have an equal right to, visit the children and care for them. It's really, really interesting how still deeply ingrained a gender-based role difference we have in our society.
Okay, well, about the solution that we were talking about previously, I seen that in France there are some quotas in private companies to for disabled people, for women. Can you explain a little bit about that? Do you have some information, and do you feel that the minorities are more or less represented or not yet? And
So, yes, exactly. In France, private companies has to employ at least 6% of people with disabilities, and if they don't meet this quota, they have to pay like a financial contribution, and the goal of this quota is to promote inclusion in the among the employee. And for the woman, it's not exactly the same. Just companies have to calculate and publish each year like a gender equality index, where they put the like how many women they have employed, and this there's index are public, so everybody can look and nice at this index. And I don't really know if some minorities are not represented, but I think like people from racial minorities, they don't have really quota or thing like this. Or I don't know. It's really for women or disabilities people.
Yeah, we have a similar thing in Germany for companies that I think at least 5% of a company's leadership needs to be represented by women. Which some companies adhere to, some don't. But what I found really interesting is that women-led companies are actually more profitable on average than purely male-led companies. So there's a business incentive to diversifying your company leadership. Which what I find really weird, or a bit discouraging, is that there still isn't any kind of quota for the actual parliament or the government to have a certain amount of men or women in there. There are two political parties which set their own quota of we want a certain amount of women or disabled people as our representatives. But for the parliament itself, there isn't really an option like this, which is sad to see. I'm guessing there isn't one. Is there one in France? A certain quota on parliamentary.
I don't know really for the parliament, but I know for the elections, like for example the municipal election, like for the cities. In the list, the list for the
Yeah.
yes, you know, you how can I say this? The percentage of women's have to be equal with the percentage of men. Like it's 50-50, 50 men and 50 women in the list. So
But do you also have like other like places on the list? Like, for example, how it works in Germany is we do have a list of representatives that each party supports. But if a party only gets, I don't know, like 20 seats, then only the first 20 people of that list are chosen. And so what parties can do is just place all the women at the bottom of the list, and then no woman gets in,
oh, I don't know
which is a
really.
bit counterproductive.
Yes,
but
yes, really. It's already a good step.
it is a step in the correct direction, I suppose. But moving on to Italy. I know that in Italy there are some TV programs that increase or encourage discrimination. And forgive my pronunciation, but I think one of them is Striscia la Notizia, Velina o altri programmi. Maybe the Italians could enlighten us to the correct pronunciation. Can you quickly? How is it actually called?
Okay, yeah. So the most famous one is called Striscia la Notizia, and it talks about various topics like blunder that politician makes. It's mainly a satiric program about random stuff that happens in Italy, and basically the Veline are two girls that come at the start of the program half naked and do a little dance, and then they just sit there for 1 hour. And that's basically it. There are also many programs when they just put an half naked girl just sitting there doing nothing just to increase the audience. and yeah, I don't like it. I mean, I don't really watch TV anymore, so I don't. So I don't even know if Striscia Notizia is still ongoing, but
Yes, I think the problem is that the presenters most of the time are always men. So women are just there as an image for to increase, as you said, the
viewership.
audience, and not only in these satiric programs, but also just in general in TV. So for some of them now it's better than like 15 years ago, but still most of the time presenters or people, the main people of the program are always men, and women are given more smaller
Worlds.
roles.
Do any of you know of any kinds of programs like these in your own countries, not just in Italy? Or
Seems not.
seems like, I don't know. We don't have ones in Germany either, so I can't blame them.
Yeah. And about Germany, there is a large demographic shift in Germany. What implication does this have for everyday life? Are there any new forms of discrimination emerging?
Yes, there are actually. Germany, as most European industrialized countries, is getting a lot older, and quite quickly. I think our average age is close to 50 at this point, which is quite alarming, really. Because at some point you're gonna have like twice as many elderly people in retirement as you have people actually working, which is difficult to sustain. As a working person have to care for not only yourself, but also pay for all of the social programs for all of the retired people, which doesn't work out. At some point, we don't have enough workers to pay for all of this, and we also don't have enough people to actually work the jobs we need to function as a country. I don't know, in hospitals or in retirement homes, if you don't have any nurses, then it's gonna get difficult to care for the patients. But what it also means is that older people play a larger and more important role in society than younger people do, especially in our political system, because obviously you can only vote for the federal elections at age 18, but you can vote until you die. So there are a lot more retired old people voting than there are young people voting. So the policies that get implemented are also usually more for the older people, for the elderly, for the retired, and there's less of an investment into schools, into long-term infrastructure, long-term financial planning, which is actually illegal. A few years ago, the German Constitutional Court has ruled that the government isn't spending enough on investments into mitigating climate change, because few people sued the German government because they claimed their future was being obstructed, because if climate change hits at +2 or +3 degrees, then their future is obviously impacted a lot, and you have floodings and severe weather events and whatnot, and they claimed it's unfair that older people get to enjoy the relative stability we have, while younger people have to deal with all of the problems that will come later on. And the court agreed. So it is actually illegal to only care for the older people, even if it is a democratic principle, which is quite interesting. But we're all from similarly developed European countries. Do any of you have a similar issue with, like, the country getting older and older and getting less people in working age? I'm seeing a lot of nods, but not a lot of comments.
I think it's happening the same in Europe, mostly Southern Europe. And that was my comment.
At least it was a comment. We can't do a podcast with dress dresses. Can't really record dress dress. But yeah, quite an interesting development we have going on. And well, one issue, well, one possible solution is immigration to get more young people in the country, and then we can do back to the beginning of discrimination and people being racist and xenophobic and whatnot. But I think we've talked enough about discrimination for now.
So yes, we arrived at the end of this episode. I would like to thank you, our team, for participating and expressing your opinion about discrimination, which is a topic that deserves to be more and more discussed, I think. So have a good day and can you wait for a new episode?